Hello, and welcome to the Quiet Connections podcast. Do you feel like you're not good enough at work? Do your insecurities hold you back from taking opportunities? Or perhaps you're worried about keeping up as the world returns to some form of normality after a pandemic. I'm Hayley, and in this episode, I'm joined by Grace Sodzi, who is CEO of Connections CIC based in Bristol, where she supports young creatives to establish careers. As somebody who has run her own social enterprise and has long been supporting people with mental health, Grace is here to talk about what she's learned about social anxiety, overcoming imposterism in your career, and emerging from lockdown and pandemic restrictions as the world begins to open up again. This is a delightful conversation with a young entrepreneur and a leader. Grace really is an inspiration, and she shows us that we can all overcome the fear of not being good enough, and our fears do not have to hold us back in life. I'm really excited to introduce you to Grace. Welcome to the Quiet Connections podcast, Grace. It's so lovely to have you here.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I wonder if we could just start by you sharing a little bit of your story and how you might be able to relate to people who feel socially anxious and not good enough.
Yeah, I think I've always sort of suffered a lot with anxiety for my whole life, really, and it caused quite a few issues for me when I was in kind of my teenage years, mainly because people didn't really talk about it then, and we didn't really learn about anything about mental health at school. So I really struggled, actually, and was lucky to get the help that I needed, which really turned my life around in a way, I think, and really inspired me to just help young people in regards to mental health, after recognizing the importance of it. So then went on to start running mental health workshops specifically for young people to help raise awareness and start those conversations around mental health. And I've kind of always wanted to make a difference in some way around that, but also still struggled with it myself. So it's a bit of it's been an interesting time. But yeah, I mean, that's why I really love Quiet Connections and everything that you guys do, because I didn't really know of any other organization that really recognizes the effects of social anxiety and really works around that. It's something that is kind of really unique, and I always feel a sense of comfort whenever I read your posts and they come up on social media, or listen to bits of your podcast, because it's something that I feel like people don't talk about necessarily that much.
Yeah, it is something that we tend to want to hide away, and then we don't talk about it. But in reality, so many of us experience it, and it's just nice to hear those stories and hear that me too. And that was really what changed things for me as well, realizing that actually I wasn't broken and alone and weird, and this was something that lots of other people experienced too. So I'm really, really pleased that we've been able to support you in that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right as well in that for me especially, it was definitely something that seemed very private, because when I was in social situations and interacting with people, it wasn't something I'd talk about. I'd sort of pretend to be how I thought I should be, but it was always then when I was by myself that I'd be thinking, oh, that was terrible, or I really don't want to go to that event, or because it's all in your head, it is quite a private thing that people don't talk about unless you talk about it. It's a difficult one.
It sounds like you were trying to put the extrovert mask on and pretend like everything was okay in social situations.
Yeah, absolutely, which is an interesting interesting choice. I think as the years have gone on, I've tried to now actually see the value in just being open and honest about the fact that it's something I suffer with. So when I'm feeling courageous. I do say to people, I was really anxious about meeting you today, or something like that. Or being on Zooms all the time. I wrote a LinkedIn post about Zoom anxiety a few months ago, to try and get the conversation out there, but it definitely doesn't come naturally. It's something I have to say, like, most people actually really value you being vulnerable and opening up about your struggles. So it's best to be real about it rather than feel like you need to pretend not to. But yeah, it's much easier said than done.
I agree. And I think in my experience, when I've done that and when I've shared that I'm feeling anxious, you can see the other person or the people in the room suddenly like relax, and it's that sense of, oh, okay, they're like me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I always try and think about, if someone had said that to me, I would feel so much more relaxed, and it would just be so nice. So
I love that, and I totally honor your courage for doing that. Okay, so tell us what you're doing now.
now I am CEO of a community interest company that's based in Bristol, and we support young creatives to establish careers. I sort of was brought in to at a bit of a crossroads for the organisation, really, and was tasked with providing a new strategy, and essentially a bit of a new lease of life for the organisation, because Paper Arts, which is the name of the organisation, was originally set up in 2014, and since then has gone through quite a few transitions, and obviously the landscape has changed since then, and especially I think particularly in this past year with the pandemic, the issues for young creatives and young people's employment generally has really been exacerbated. So I've kind of got this year, I guess, to focus on the research and development of a new service that we can provide to kind of meet that new need. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I'm sort of bringing in new ideas, making them happen, and supporting young creatives, which is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, there's so much that I want to talk about with you. Where do I start? I wonder, as an introvert who experiences social anxiety, what it's like to take on that kind of role.
Yeah, I think it definitely challenges the way I view leadership. I think, especially when I sort of took on the role and now I have to say, oh, I'm CEO, it seems very sort of, Alan Sugar, The Apprentice, which I absolutely am not. And so that's been really interesting, actually recognizing my own views on those roles, and actually trying not to feel like I have to fill those shoes, but to actually be myself. So I was trying to think about, okay, but to be honest, I think I listed when I first came into the role, what does a CEO do? Like, what are the actual jobs that involves? And then basically said to myself, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. So I can do the job.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not super extroverted, I can do the task, and that's what's most important.
Yeah.
So I try to ground myself in that whenever I feel a little bit overwhelmed, and just recognize the value in being me, and that I do bring things to the table, and there's certain aspects of my personality that are actually really good for this type of role.
That's brilliant. I love that idea of just breaking down the role and then seeing bit by bit, can I do this? Yes, I can. I think it's really easy to look at the title and be like, I can't do that. It's such a big, powerful role. And I know this was sort of my experience as well when I was setting up Quiet Connections, and I had this idea in my head that we have to be very extroverted and outgoing and chatty in order to be successful in a business. And, actually going through the process, I had to really look at those beliefs and challenge them. And I came up with lots and lots of examples of very introverted, reflective, quieter leaders. And that really helped me to go, okay, I've got, lots and lots of quieter qualities that can really, really support me in this role. Yeah, it's just a simple reframe. So I'm really glad you've been able to do that.
Yeah, me too. I think I needed to be honest, otherwise I would have really, really struggled. But I think what also helps is that actually a lot of the young creatives that I've seen or worked with in the past, if there's something about like being a creative, lots of introverts are also very creative. So actually there's value in me understanding what it's like to be an introvert within this space. I can think like, actually, what are all the barriers that would stop me attending that I need to think about? Because I know there'll be a lot of people who feel similarly to me. And so actually there's real benefit to me understanding that, so that they can access the support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's lots of research around introverts and extroverts are very good at leading different types of teams. So if you've got a very proactive, creative team, an introvert is definitely the right person for the role.
That's good to know. I'll tell my team that. I'll be like, I am actually perfectly placed to lead you guys, just so you know.
Okay, so we're at a really strange time and we're just sort of re-emerging from this pandemic and all the restrictions that have been in place. How are you finding that?
Yeah, I think I'm finding it more difficult perhaps than I thought I would. I think it's strange. There's this whole atmosphere of oh, I can't wait till things go back to normal, and the idea of, when they mapped out the various steps and how the restrictions would be lifted gradually, it was like, oh, that's ages away. And by the time we got there, like, oh, I'm so glad that this is happening. Without realizing that, being told for a year that you have to stay at home, socially distanced from everyone, that takes its toll a lot. And it feels like there's a whole extra level now to my social anxiety that isn't just that socializing, but just generally being around people in like closer proximity, or even not that, even just when there's lots of people around, because we've been used to not busy streets, not busy shops really for the past year. So I've kind of had to recognize that and kind of be kind to myself, I suppose, and set realistic goals. So I think the first time I realized this was the first Friday when I think hospitality was open outside, and me and my partner were like, let's go out for dinner, that would be really nice. So we didn't book anywhere because everyone's booked up. I was like, that's fine, let's just go see what's out there. Just walked into town, and it was packed. Couldn't find anywhere to sit, just lots of people around, and I just couldn't deal with it. I really, really struggled, and got very stressed and pretty emotional, to be honest, about it, which was quite a shock, because I was like, this is just what it used to be like when it was normal. Why am I feeling this way? But actually, like, my partner was really good at this, actually. He was just like, it's okay. Like, I think he understood that it is overwhelming and extra overwhelming for me, and that's okay. So that was almost like, okay, that's a bit much for now. So then I kind of got back and decided, I'm just going to work within my constraints at the minute, which maybe is just to book a table. If I want to go and eat, just maybe do that, and then I know that there's a place for us to sit when we go in, that someone will show us to, and that's sorted, just so I can get used to the idea of being around people again and being around busyness, and just have to focus on that one aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been like, okay, actually break it down to baby steps again, and just take it easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I really value what you're saying there. I think that there is this expectation within us that we will just go back to how we were before the pandemic hit. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think for all of us, our kind of levels of comfort have changed. And we have, we've been talking to people from behind screens and not interacting with people face to face very much. We've lost a lot of that resilience for the stimulation that we get. And those social interactions are really the most stimulating thing that we can have. And I think when we're more introverted and socially anxious, or highly sensitive, this particularly is going to affect us going back out there. And we kind of have to train our bodies gently to deal with this stimulation again, all this noise and everything that we're going to see, rather than just someone's face and shoulders on a screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like, I don't think I could do a group at the minute either. Like, one-to-one is okay, and that's what I'm comfortable with, because it's just you two and you can kind of chat. Whereas if there's I think if I met up with a group at the minute, that would be quite challenging, which I'm actually doing for the first time this week. So we'll see how that goes, because that's even more of the stimulation, because you're kind of focusing on lots of different, well, not loads, but a few different people. And yeah, just sort of, that's more people to kind of think about, oh, what are they thinking about me now? And oh, what did they think about that I just said? So yeah, it's just taking it slowly. And yeah, you're right, just getting used to that stimulation again.
Yeah. And with what you said about we've been told to kind of stay away from people, connecting with people is dangerous, then that's really put us in this self-protective mode, and we're going to be like hyper vigilant coming out. And it does feel like it's all opened up very quickly.
It does, yeah. And I think it's weird to now sort of measure the risk ourselves, particularly with, I think last night they were saying, next week you can meet with people indoors, and sort of it's up to you to decide whether you want to socially distance from your family, etc. But it doesn't feel like anything's changed. Like, it feels like this thing is still there, and that actually it doesn't feel like suddenly everything's okay again. And I'm not sure whether that's something that we're going to have to work on, like, internally, that we'll get there eventually, or whether it is an external thing. Maybe it's a mixture of both, probably. Yeah, it's really complex. Obviously, we've never been through a pandemic before, so it's a whole new challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what has helped you then? You've spoken about basically taking comfort zone stretches and starting off with the like easiest thing and then working your way up to groups. So what else has helped you to move through this, opening up again?
I think leaving a lot of time to actually, like, more time than I would to recover from social situations, which is maybe now a response to a situation I've learned, which was basically last week. I sort of planned out my diary and had quite a lot of different social things happening on the Thursday and the Friday. Well, it felt like a lot for me. But I thought, these are all great things. Like, it'll be fun to do, to go out for drinks again, or to have meetings in person, and all that stuff. But it was just a lot. Like, I realized then that actually I just need more time after each meeting to spend with myself and kind of re-energize. Because by the time I got to the Friday evening, I had to cancel a meeting because I was just like, I can't do another one. Like, I'm just so drained. And then, to be honest, I needed the weekend to sort of regroup and spend time by myself, just doing things that I enjoy, going on walks, sleeping, all of that stuff. And so I'm definitely keeping that in mind now moving forward. Just again, as we get used to seeing people in person, just make sure that I don't overload my diary with seeing people, and give enough time to just look after myself.
Yeah. I think that's a lovely tip in general. We can often overload ourselves and think, oh, I should be able to keep up with this person or that person, and not really honor our, our natural way of being. So that's a lovely thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I almost feel I've struggled with it because being in this job, a lot of it is about meeting new people, like forming partnerships. And obviously in an ideal world, you'd have as many of those as possible so that people know about you and what you're doing, and you're building those connections. But it's not sustainable for me to have 5 days packed full of meetings, and I have to be really strict with myself now and be like, okay, 2 or 3 things max a day, which does mean that my diary then gets booked up, but like I just have to try and accept that and be like, no, that's fine, this is just, for the sustainability of the business, of the organization, I need to have my mental health in check. And if that means spacing out meetings, then I'm just going to have to do that, because I'm no use if I'm like burnt out by the second week of the month.
No, that's such a good tip. And I've actually done the same thing. I've just started going back to face-to-face coaching in the last couple of weeks. And I've changed my booking system so that it'll only allow 2 or 3 people to book rather than, several people throughout the day. So I've also realized that I need to really manage the amount of people that I see and have that downtime as well. So I imagine there's lots and lots of other people who are in the same situation with that. Shall we talk a little bit about imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably talk all day about that. But no, we should. I think the first thing to say is that actually, a lot of the time I don't recognize it. And there have been a few times where I've had conversations with people where I've just felt like, I can't do this thing, or I'm really worried about this meeting. And they're just like, this is just imposter syndrome. And then when they recognize it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what this is. So it's not just me being flawed, it's just the imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know about imposter syndrome, how would you explain that to them?
Ooh, how would I explain it? So it's just when you feel as if you maybe don't have the right to be in a position, or doing a task, that you've sort of winged it, or you are winging it. You don't necessarily have the skills. Maybe you're sort of, people are believing in you, but you're not really sure why, and you think maybe you're just having them on. It's just, or you're wearing this mask and no one actually knows what's going on, and how rubbish you are beneath it.
Yeah, waiting to get found out and kicked
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Yeah, I've been there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I try and take comfort in the fact that it seems to be something a lot of people suffer with, particularly women, I've learned. Yeah. So it's another thing that's a really good thing to talk about, rather than worry about yourself, and just be like, is this something you suffer from, and how do you deal with it? Because it is common, or at least that's what I found at the minute.
It is, yeah. I think about 70 to 80% of people experience imposter syndrome.
Wow.
And it's the same in men and women, I believe. So it's a huge thing. And again, it's something that's like we feel ashamed of, so we hide it away, and we're just like in this job going, I'm going to get found out, I'm going to get found out.
Yeah.
Have you got an experience where this kind of really came up for you?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I think, getting this job because it was an interesting situation. The initial job that I got was actually as operations and project manager. And then when I joined, there was quite a quick change over a team just because other opportunities came up. And so I ended up having to recruit a new team, basically back to the start. And the idea was initially that I would recruit as well for someone senior to me that would take on that CEO role. But actually a fundraising consultant I was working with at the time just said, she was like, you've got the expertise, you've got the skills, why don't you just go for it? It makes sense. And so I did, and I went to our board and sort of submitted a proposal and all of this fancy stuff to basically say, I think I can take on the role. And obviously they accepted my proposal, and here I am now. But it's a weird, because it wasn't a traditional recruitment. I was technically sort of interviewed by them, but it didn't feel the same. I felt like, oh, maybe they've just given me this job because I don't know, like, who even knows? Like, this is the thing, you struggle to think why else would they have given it to me if they didn't think I could do it. But it was definitely one of those moments where I was just like, can I do this? Like, is this just because there's no one else here that could do it possibly? Like, I'm a last resort type thing. Which is why I then did that exercise of sitting down and just looking at the task and actually realizing I can do each of these different things. So yeah.
I think that's a really valuable exercise to do. Yeah, I mean, why would the board put the company at risk by putting someone in a position of CEO if they didn't believe that you could do the job? And the same with any kind of recruitment, really. My biggest experience was with when I got onto the School for Social Entrepreneurs startup course. And it's a really challenging process to get onto the course. I was interviewed by Sally Hurd, the CEO of the School for Social Entrepreneurs in Cornwall. And then they do like a Dragon's Den type interview, which I was like, red-faced and anxious as hell, but I got through it. And wow. Then I was offered this position on the course. And I was really excited for about 5 minutes. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I'm going to be Sally Hurd's biggest mistake.
Yeah, I absolutely know this feeling. Definitely.
What was really interesting for me, and you might have come across the same, was that when I was on the course and I was looking around at everyone and thinking, oh, they're doing amazing stuff and I'm not up to their standard, but eventually started having conversations about this, and they were like, oh, we were thinking the same thing about you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's weird when you hear other people's perspectives, but that's another reason why talking to people is so great. It's so strange. Sometimes I do wonder, I wish I could see myself through other people's eyes. And in fact, that's something my sister said to me when I was job hunting, last summer, and I was really struggling because obviously it's the pandemic. It's not difficult. It's not easy to get a job at the moment. And I just felt, like I was sort of rubbish. And she was just like, oh, I wish you could see yourself through everyone else's eyes, because I clearly don't see that version of myself. Yeah. And I think that's definitely something that's really, really good to remember when you're suffering from imposter syndrome. Actually think, what does everyone else see? They don't see everything that goes on in your head, do they? So what would they see?
That's so true. And we do tend to focus in on the things that we believe are negative about ourselves, things that we think we can't do, the past failures or mistakes that we think we've had. And other people just don't see that. They tend to focus more in on the good stuff. But, we're our own worst critics, but we just have a really poor self-assessment of ourselves.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you be giving to someone else who's dealing with imposter syndrome at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose I would say first that you're obviously not alone and it's definitely a thing. So try and remember that when you're having those thoughts of, oh, you're not good enough, someone's going to find you out, that recognize it as imposter syndrome. It's not just you thinking that, it is a thing that people suffer from. I find that helpful because it sort of removes me. Then I can kind of recognize it, and in a way sort of compartmentalize those thoughts as, okay, this is imposter syndrome. And I always find it helpful to get feedback and just support from friends, family, like work colleagues, to kind of counteract those thoughts and just double check and be like, like how is this? How am I doing? Would you say, to stop me just getting inside my own head too much and to get those other opinions so that I can try and understand those different perspectives. Also, I'm pretty sure what I do a lot of the time is just watch TED Talks about different topics. Like 100% there's one in imposter syndrome and what it means, and definitely finding other people on the internet who suffer with the same thing is so reassuring. So yeah, there's lots of resources out there, I'm sure, that can help.
Yeah. So there's the fact that you're not alone, recognizing that you've got this little imposter monster in your head telling you lies, and getting some feedback to counteract that, and then really finding out more about how your brain is actually working through TED Talks and things.
Yeah, I would just say that something I find really helpful, which someone gave me this tip, was at the end of each week, or each day, or however often, to just write a list of your accomplishments, so everything that you've done. And so for me, this is everything from like a meeting, or it'll be today, like in a podcast, or to like sending off a difficult email, or to actually completing tasks, like, I've designed a workshop or whatever. And that really helps me when I feel that imposter syndrome, because I can literally look back on the list and say, look at all these things I've done, like, that's actually quite a lot. And you so quickly forget all of that, and you forget what you've achieved. And it's often the little things that actually amount to the big things. So I'd say that's a tip, to help recognize what you've accomplished and all the positive things that you do.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that's a really good way to start boosting your confidence as well, and training your brain to focus in on the positive things rather than the things we think are negative.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you feel, because I've definitely done that, where I've sort of had a look at those and gone into a meeting or any sort of social situation really feeling myself and feeling confident, and then it's just such a nice feeling when you feel that, and it's definitely something that's relatively new to me in the past 2 years, but it's so great when you get that little taste of confidence.
Yeah. What would you like? What are the key things that you would like to share with anyone struggling with social anxiety right now?
I guess what I've always found really helpful is that I have a creative outlet, which for me is writing. And I know different people will have their different outlets that kind of help them process where they're at and things. And I really like being creative, and particularly writing, because I can sort of sit back and reflect on how I'm feeling and the emotions, and it really helps me process them. But also then I end up with a really beautiful piece of writing or poetry that otherwise I wouldn't have produced had I not actually been struggling with my emotions or feeling down. And so I really like that, sort of creating something beautiful out of a really difficult emotion. And it also helps me recognize the fact that it's not necessarily, like, you don't always have to be up and super happy, that actually there are like benefits to counteracting that, and sometimes you do feel down, and that's just a normal part of life, rather than feeling like everything's going absolutely wrong. And definitely, like, you know, if you're feeling down for as I have done in the past for a long time, and it goes on for weeks and maybe even months, then that definitely, that's like when you need to get help and extra support. But when it's just the sort of fluctuating, sometimes I just have short sort of depressive periods, or particularly after I've been super anxious for a while, I try and create through that, and just write, and it really helps me. So I think I'd just say, like, have a look around and find potentially an outlet for you, whether that's something creative. I obviously am really passionate about creative things, so I'll always preach about that, or it could be anything else. I think I would definitely recommend that to anyone who sort of struggles with their mental health at times.
Yeah, what you're saying there reminds me of completing the stress cycle. So we have these stressors in our daily life all the time, and it's actually more than we're designed to handle as a human being. And then we have this internal stress that we feel, but we need to do something with it, because even when the stressor has gone away, our bodies don't know that the stress has gone, and it stays within us. So we need to do something. And for someone, that might be getting out and going for a walk or doing some exercise. For you, it's obviously creating and writing, and it might be meditation or something. But it's finding what works for you, that way to kind of really process that stress and allow it to be released from your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that comes, it can help you accept when you do have those difficult feelings, because I feel like a big issue with mental health is the whole shame aspect of it, and either, like, yeah, just feeling ashamed, or maybe feeling as if, I didn't, like, you feel a bit weak for feeling this way, and that you can't cope with the normal stresses of life. But like you said, there's, we're exposed to more than we should, especially in the world of social media all the time. So actually, sometimes it's just a natural response, is that you will feel low or get stressed, and accepting that, I think, is actually really helpful. And just that classic be kind to yourself, which, as someone who's sort of gone through all those, probably a stress circle about 100 times, or really struggled with mental health in the past, every time I have to remind myself of that. It's never inherent. It's always, my go-to is to sort of be really hard on myself, and pull up your socks, get back on it, like, why are you complaining, all this stuff. Every time, like, without fail, I have to tell myself, be kind to yourself. Almost like be kind and then be even kinder kind of works for me.
Oh, okay. I love that. Be kind and then be even kinder. That is so good for, like, those of us who do have that harsh inner critic.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. And then, also thinking about what I would tell a friend to do, I always find super, super interesting, that perspective, because I'm a very caring person, and because I'm such an advocate of mental health, like, that's always a priority when I'm talking to friends or they're talking to me about theirs. And so I definitely need to check in with myself every so often and be like, if I was my friend, what would I be telling them to do? And I think that's when I come up with, like, oh, okay, I'd be telling them to do this, so it's fine, rather than, I don't know, I just find it really helpful.
That is really helpful, getting out of your own head. Sometimes it can help to kind of even picture yourself as a child, and then talk to yourself as if you are that child that just needs that support and reassurance. It's another nice way of doing it. But definitely, I think especially right now, emerging from this pandemic with all these restrictions and things, we need to be really, really self-compassionate with ourselves. Just accept that things are going to be hard. It's going to feel rough, like you were saying. And
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
it slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And like recognizing that we haven't lived through a pandemic like this before. And so there's no like normal reaction or way to transition back. I think whatever you're experiencing and however it's challenging for you is totally valid, and like that's fine. Just do what works for you and kind of get back to wherever it is you want to get to in your own time. There's nothing that you need to, measure yourself against, or yeah.
Okay, so one final question. If you were to send a message back to little Grace, what would you be telling her?
Oh, little Grace. How little Grace are we talking?
How little would you like to send a message?
Okay. Let's say maybe like 10-year-old Grace.
Yeah.
I think I would say things that things are going to get really challenging, and that you will have a tendency to struggle with your mental health, and that'll cause it'll just make your life a little bit more challenging, but that's okay, and actually it's something that you'll learn a lot through, and through the experiences that you go through, that will actually make you really strong as a person and able to deal with all the issues life throws at you, and just to not be ashamed of the fact that you find certain things difficult that maybe other people don't. There's like plenty of value in that, and how you can then help people through your personal experiences. So yeah, I'd just say don't worry too much. That's such a classic, isn't it? Maybe I wouldn't say that, but just like recognizing the value in you just as you are.
Yeah, I like that. And there's a little bit of reassurance there that there is a bit of a gift within the struggle, which kind of makes it more bearable.
Yeah, definitely. I always think that. I think yeah, there's always some sort of good, whether that's helping, being able to relate to people so you can help them. I think that's been the main one for me. And being able to use my struggles as an opportunity to start conversations that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been started. So yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, it's been a right pleasure talking to you today, and so lovely to see your face again.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Quiet Connections podcast. If you would like to get in touch with Grace Sodzi, you can find her at paperarts.org.uk. Please do remember to subscribe to this podcast so that you can hear from all of the amazing speakers we have lined up for you, who all have lots of messages of encouragement and tips to help